Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Post-Game Show podcast. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo. Hopefully Ryan Herrera joining us from Wrigley Field before the end of the podcast. Kevin Wells running the ones and twos. And a 5-0 shutout loss to the Pirates to talk about tonight. Shout out to everybody in the live YouTube chat who's hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate you guys. Therapy for everybody. As the Cubs put up 5 hits against Paul Skenes and the rest of the Pirates pitching staff tonight. That is a Cubs team fighting for their tiny, itsy-bitsy playoff lives that the Hopers still believe in, and they've lost back-to-back games to the Pirates.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Titans plus 4.5 on Sunday.
You moved on to football season?
Listen, man, season's over. I said it last Sunday. Season's over. It was fun to watch them just beat the shit out of the Pirates and the Nationals this past week. But I mean, what? What
were you expecting? An 11 runs in the final 3 innings in this game against the Pirates?
I'll say this: the last 2 days they have explained the 2024 Cubs. The last 2 days. Yesterday, the first 7 innings of yesterday's game were awesome. The vibes were immaculate. Jimmy Buffett singing the stretch in the 7th inning. And then Jorge Lopez gives up a 3-run shot and another solo shot after that in the 8th inning. He's been awesome, but bullpen blows it. That was basically like the first 3 months of the year. Then tonight, offense dead. Well, the offense has basically just been as dead or inconsistent all season. The last two games have summed up the 2024 Chicago Cubs. I just don't have an emotional, I'm not emotionally my days aren't being ruined by this team anymore. These two games have summed up what this team has been all season. And honestly, this team also basically sums up a lot of what we saw last year, because you get these extreme outcomes like we saw last week, but then you go into a new week whenever you actually reel some of the fans back in and you can't score any runs. Yeah, I mean, you've actually, compared to the rest of the league, the Cubs have actually done pretty well against Paul Skenes, but you couldn't get the big hit in the first 3 innings when you needed to. All right? Jared Jones, I expected him to be better yesterday, and you actually did score some runs, but you gave it away late, and it was the most brutal way to snap a 6-game winning streak. And tonight was, you were going to be able to really read or understand this team a little bit more, maybe, if they had bounced back tonight after a tough loss yesterday. But instead, you lose 5-0. Kyle Hendricks gives you 5 good innings. He gave up 2 runs, but in 5 innings, for the standards that we have for him this year, I know we should have higher standards for him, but just be real about it. You scored no runs, and he's not the reason you lost tonight. Everyone on Cubs Twitter was pissed. Yeah. Not only do you blow the game yesterday, but then less than a half hour after you blow the game yesterday, Craig Counsell says that Justin Steele is not starting because he has a sore elbow. Kyle Hendricks is starting. And everyone on Cubs Twitter is just ready to get their pitchforks and just riot outside the marquee because Kyle Hendricks is starting.
Well, true.
And then he comes out tonight, and even though he gave up 2 earned, he's not the fucking reason you lost. I'm sorry for cursing. He's not the reason you lost. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the offense, what I've said all season, when everyone was blaming the bullpen about everything, what I've said all season, this offense just doesn't know how to be just consistently fine. You're going to get extremes like last week, and you're going to get extremes like we saw in May and June for short stretches. But you can't do it for 2 months like you did in May and June. And you can't do it now when you absolutely have to basically win every single game if you are going to do some magical stuff that you can't explain. It's just, I'm yelling like I care. And in the deep, deep, deep depths of my soul, I do care. Because I'm a fan, okay? I understand that, yes, I said that I'm not letting this team emotionally affect me anymore. But yes, deep down, I'm angry about this organization as a whole. It's just everything. These last 2 games have summed up everything of the last year and a half, almost 2 years, once this month of September is over. It is what it is. I'm ready for Friday so I can shed a few tears when Anthony Rizzo comes back to Wrigley.
Do you remember last week when the Cubs were hot? They were in the middle of a stretch of winning 10 of 12, where the live YouTube chat, some folks on there said, Luke, we don't like your negativity. And I'm not being negative.
You're just being honest.
I was just trying to be honest. Cody does the emotion. I'm trying to give the honesty. I've seen enough Cubs baseball to know that you can't trust a sample size of 12 games when I have 4 months to watch and know what the team really is. This is the problem. If you want to call it a problem, this is the problem, and we'll talk about it later in the show, with the third wild card. This is how teams get sucked into believing, fan bases get sucked into believing, we could be the team. We could get hot. We could still do it. The Cubs have shown you all season who they are. I'm not trying to bag on anybody. I'm just telling you, when you have 4 months of that and you look at it, you say, okay, how are they going to get back into it? Well, they could go 20-6 down the stretch and they could catch the Braves, or they could have back-to-back games like this, which totally unravel everything you did for 10 to 12 games. Mm-hmm. It just does. Like it you have to keep that 10 to 12 going the entire season. This team isn't capable of it. Yeah. You want them to be, right, but they've shown you for 4 months that they're not. At their best, they can go ahead and win 10 of 12, but then they get an opportunity to step on a team like the Pirates, and they might get swept by the Pirates. But that's the 2024 Cubs.
Yeah.
That's who they are.
Right. It's just not consistent enough. And I have mainly put most of the blame on this team's failures this year on the offense. But for sure, if they didn't blow however many saves that they blow, if they didn't blow half of them, they'd be not just over 500 like they are right now, but they'd probably be at least right up with the Mets and maybe a game or two out of a game and a half out of the wild card instead of 4.5. And but
it wasn't even
maybe even closer with the Brewers instead of being 10 games back.
Or if the offense played somewhat close to what it has the last 10 to 12 games. To me, I'll still say that's the bigger problem. Like, the bullpen has been very inconsistent. It's been either bad or good. But the offense has been that all season.
Yeah. It's just
season.
I understand that Skenes pitched tonight. But like I said,
they worked him.
They actually did what they're supposed to do against Skenes. They got him out before the 6th inning. Hell, he was on pace to maybe not even get out of the 4th the way they were making him throw pitches in the first 3 innings. You can't get the big hit when you absolutely need it. Ian Happ had a huge strikeout, I think, in the 3rd inning when I think they had 1st and 3rd with 1 out. He comes up, he struck out. Like, not being able to put the ball in play in that scenario, like it's little things like that,
Skenes had a ton of swing and miss on his changeup tonight. I mean, the changeup was filthy. You gotta give credit where credit is due there, but you're right. I mean,
he has incredible stuff, but he's also human. Like, you can't go out there and just act like you're facing Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz here, like you're in their prime. Like, he's really good, but he's a rookie. Since the very beginning, when he was great, there have been pedestrian/human games where he's not that great. His stuff still looks amazing, and you still say, man, I doubled down on that guy being an all-star for a long time. But he's not someone where you say, we're never getting a hit tonight. The Cubs had many opportunities to score runs off him.
Yeah, they worked counts. They got some walks. That's how they got his pitch count up. It's just that they couldn't get the big hit when they absolutely needed it. 1st inning, I think Nico was at the plate with the bases loaded, 2 outs. Hits a ground ball to short. 2nd inning, the bottom of the order did some work, but they couldn't get the big hit, and it happened in the third too. I think they left 8 on base the first 3 innings total. I think I looked that up and tweeted it from CHGO Cubs Twitter account tonight. And it's just, that has been a large part of the problem with the offense. And admit it, like, we can't sit here and say the offense of late has been bad. These last 2, this game it was bad. And I guess you can argue last night they probably should have had more runs too. And because they didn't is a big part of why they blew the game. But, and obviously the road trip, they were awesome on offense. But consistency, there just hasn't been enough consistency from this offense all year. And I shouldn't be this mad about these 2 games when we just coming off going 8-1 on a road trip. I shouldn't be. But the reason that I am is because this team has, as we've seen it throughout little stretches throughout the season. You see that they have something in them. They just can't put it together to be any kind of consistently decent team more often than not. And that is why they are 3 games above 500. Mm-hmm. Mediocrity. That's that's what it is. It's mediocrity. And whether, like I said, when I said the season was over, talking about the projection system, saying this team was projected to win, 83 to 85 games, whether those projection systems are right or not, the fan base expected more this year. The fan base expected to make the playoffs. It is an absolute failure that this team, as we sit here on September 3rd, 3% chance to make the playoffs? It's absolute failure. And I just don't feel like there's any pressure on this front office based off the article I'm reading that Ken Rosenthal's put out on The Athletic today, and just listening to Jed Hoyer on the score. And it's very meatball-y of me to say, bringing up him going on the Cubs flagship radio station and doing an interview with those people.
We'll tell you about it.
It's very meatball-y of me to just say that they're not asking him tough questions. That's not true. They do ask the tough questions. And he just says the same things. He's never going to reveal anything. He's never going to be transparent with the fan base. Nothing. And that's something that Theo Epstein did all the time. And whether it's because the era is different or not, I don't care. I want to know the direction of this organization. I want to know who actually cares about winning. They haven't won a playoff game since 2017. Haven't made the playoffs in a 162-game season since 2018. It's just unacceptable, man. It is unacceptable.
When you talk about 3%, just all you have to do is think about that stuff as if you're back in school or if you're in school. What's the difference between getting 0 or 3 on your test?
Still an F.
Still an F.
Yeah.
Still enough. You got no shot. Even if it was 50% right now, would you really feel good about catching the Atlanta Braves, a banged up Braves team? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I keep going back to the fact too that the Braves have had more injuries in key positions than you have this year. They are down the MVP of the National League and the preseason Cy Young favorite, and they are still light years ahead of you.
Albies.
Light years. Talk about, What about the Brewers? All the stuff they lost in the offseason.
They are also light years ahead of you.
They're losing aces. They've lost Yelich. They've lost their manager. They've lost Burns. The Cubs didn't lose anything like that. And how many games are the Cubs behind them in the division?
10.
Not that it's even a race, but it's not even close. The division is been over for months.
It's been over since July 1st. That's not an exaggeration.
And I will say, did I think the Cubs roster had flaws going into the season? Yeah, we've talked about them all the time, like what the potential flaws could be and what the potential what ifs. If that happens, they could be really good. But I never looked at it on paper and said, the Brewers without Counsell, without Burns, with a banged up Yelich, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Without Hader, I never looked at it and said, Milwaukee's going to run away with this. It won't even be close.
But we did say all the things that we were worried about the Cubs.
Yeah, they all went wrong.
You know how...
all of them.
You know how messed up...
Bush didn't go wrong, but he hasn't been playing offensively, but his defense has been great. I was concerned that Michael Bush was still a rookie, and we were counting on basically rookies at first and third.
Right.
Experiments.
Well, the point that I'm getting at here is that all the things that we were worried about the team, we haven't been wrong about.
No.
Maybe we weren't too wrong about, or we were too confident in catcher and we were too confident in ALLCITY. That's the only thing that I guess we can say that we've been wrong about as a whole.
Let me tell you what you can be confident in, Cody. Empire today. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. They have a virtual floor designer. Great way to see the floors and how they will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how the floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might be talking to somebody that was working in plumbing yesterday. Now they're trying to sell you flooring. And by the way, these guys, they pride themselves on convenient shop-at-home service. Empire is the place. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what those new floors will look like with home lighting, decor, all that stuff. And they service their own warranties. If an issue does come up, just call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. You don't have to track down the manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off. That's right, a $350 discount when you use the promo code CHGO. That's us, CHGO. That's the promo code to get you $350 off. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Guys, I got to tell you about this game-changing product that I use before a night out with drinks. It's called Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I'm in my 50s. I have to make a choice. I either have to have a great night or a great next day. That is, until I found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Let me tell you, if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it's with Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. It is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. This byproduct, not dehydration, that's what's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break that byproduct down. Just remember, to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before my drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on a full day the next morning without worry. Vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions. There's so much going on right now. Bears games coming up. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/CHGO Cubs. You get 15% off your first order when you use the code CHGO Cubs at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/CHGO Cubs and use the code CHGO Cubs at checkout for 15% off. That's Z-Biotics. We want to say thank you to them for sponsoring this episode and also for our good times.
I need to get
and
some
vibes.
I need to get some because
First tailgates this weekend.
that and my college football Saturday was
Rough.
not only on the books but also just like
Oh, really?
yeah.
Where'd you go?
Saturday I went to Bird's Nest.
And you didn't hit me
wings.
up?
I should have.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry.
I wasn't around, but I would have.
Could've-
Next time.
I was
Could have
with,
taken the train to Arlington Heights and gone to the same place.
Bird's Nest, best bar in the city. Love it.
some of the best wings.
Sports bar. in the
Downtown
city.
Arlington Heights, right at the corner.
They need to put
right
more
at the
lights
exit
in
for
it,
the
but,
train station.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Some of the best wings in the city. If you're looking for best wings,
Free ad.
I definitely would ask them. But yeah,
So again, Cubs lose 5-0. Yes, Kyle Hendricks had to fill in for Justin Steele, whom we were told last night after the loss. Steele's elbow's sore. He's not going to pitch. Here comes Hendricks, and the outrage you said. But again, Hendricks had almost nothing to do with this loss today. On the other hand, the story quickly becomes, much more importantly, what's going on with Justin Steele. Do we want to just play the soundbite from Steele first? Yeah. This is from our Ryan Herrera. Earlier tonight before the game, Justin Steele spoke and gave an update on his sore pitching elbow.
Still a little bit tight, dealing with some soreness. I've just been in the training room, trying to work that stuff out. But, got some imaging done today. Was happy with the news. We're getting some more eyes, some more opinions on it, and then we'll kind of go from there as of right now.
When did you start to feel it?
Something I've kind of just been managing. I can't really pinpoint like a date or anything like that, but I threw my last bullpen in Washington, and Tommy could kind of tell I was feeling a little something, and it was kind of the same thing. But we just kind of made a decision. It was like kind of been battling it. Let's kind of just go ahead and figure out what it was. So, but from everybody's understanding, it was good news this morning.
When you talk about having more imaging, does your body tell you all that you need to know about whether you can throw or not?
Well, yeah, totally. It was one of them things like, I'm the one that's feeling it and stuff as I'm throwing. I've been able to, do what I want to do, execute pitches and whatnot, but it comes to a point where it's like, how long do you want to continue to pitch through something? How bad can you continue to get if you continue to do so? So, I was kind of glad that, I was supposed to start today. I think it was the right decision to, not necessarily start today, get some imaging of it and kind of find out exactly what it was.
Is it similar to last June when you went on the IL for a couple weeks? No?
I'm trying to think. That was starting against Tampa Bay. Yeah, I would say it was pretty similar, as far as where I was feeling it, what I was feeling and whatnot.
When you say it seemed like good news, what exactly about the news, or what pieces of news felt positive for you?
Yeah, just the Dr. Grislow, the Cubs doctor was just there was no severe damage or anything like that. It was just some inflammation that was kind of expected to be seen and whatnot.
So if this happens in May, do you personally treat it any different than when it happens in September, as far as feeling you need to get back in there?
As far as treating it and stuff, that's probably a question for the trainers. As far as me throwing and stuff, it's kind of just I want to be able to go out there and pitch and not feel anything. Obviously, we're in a tight situation with playoffs and stuff, so I want to get back on the mound as soon as possible.
So he's pretty confident that he's going to pitch again this season. It's a sore elbow that he's been dealing with. You heard the mention of the IL last year with this, and I was terrified because he's a guy who's had Tommy John.
Mm-hmm. That was a forearm, I believe.
Right, but anything on the arm, I'm worried.
Sure,
because I'm a panicker. Yeah. I was worried for the player. I'm sure he goes through that. Listen, first of all, it was serious enough. The pain was enough that he didn't start this game. More importantly, it was enough that they went and did imaging. Now, it's great, awesome that the imaging didn't show a tear. It didn't show ligament damage. It didn't show something that's going to need surgery. But it's a 3% chance, according to Fangraphs, that this team makes the postseason. I would think, let me put it this way, if I were running the Cubs, I would shut him down for the season. I would accept the fact that it's such a 3% chance. I would want to Justin Steele's not going to jump out and tell you, I can't pitch. You hear him. He said he wants to pitch again this season, even though he's been dealing with it. So it's already been happening. I would, if I were the Cubs, I would protect my ace. And I would tell him, you know what? We're shutting you down for the season. We're not. Somebody else will get the opportunity. And if we make the playoffs, it's because the offense has carried us the last 25 games and somebody stepped into your spot, and great for them, and we'll take that opportunity and move with that next year, and you'll be back stronger than ever next year. Why would you pitch him? I'm hoping what they'll do actually is wait and see what happens. You can go ahead and even if you want to tell him, we're not shutting you down for the season. If you want to do some light tossing, stay warmed up, whatever, go through your routine. Let's see what happens against the Dodgers and the Yankees. Get through that point. And if you've got, if you're 2 games back and you think you need to start them for some reason, okay. But that's not going to be the case. I would shut him down. I would just shut him down. I just don't see the upside to him pitching again when you have a 3% chance of making the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say before you said all that, that to me, it seems smart to just put him on the injured list and let him go through the 10 days or whatever. And if the team is out of it, if they, fall back below 500 or, the Braves don't lose or, the Diamondbacks, Padres, continue to win. And, every single day that passes by that those teams continue to win, even if you do win, it doesn't help you either.
Correct.
So
That's part of the problem.
right. And tune back into the first segment to hear more about why that's such a pain and why that's ruining my life. But to me, I think what they should do, just go ahead and put him on the injured list. And then after that minimum stint is up, if he's feeling better and you're still in it, then I'm willing to see you roll the dice. Because every season is sacred. I don't care. As much as I yelled and screamed about the first about in the first segment about everything that has to do with this organization, we've seen crazy things happen in September. All right, so just that's how I in general feel about that. But yeah, I mean, it just wouldn't be to me. It wouldn't be smart, and then it also gives you an opportunity to get a look at some people. I would mention the first segment. A lot of people upset that Kyle Hendricks started tonight instead of someone like Caleb Killian, who's on the 40-man, who's been in Iowa, who's back. We've seen him a few times these last 2 years. Hasn't had a ton of major league success at all. But would you have felt better with him going out there tonight than Kyle Hendricks, considering the stuff-wise? Sure, but he doesn't have any really good success at the major league level. Don't know what would have happened. But if you have to put Steele on the injured list, you have to call someone up because you just brought back Jordan Wicks.
Fine.
There has to be, if you in general care about trying to make the playoffs, you would have to call someone up, in my opinion. And at least Killian is on the 40-man. You won't have to remove someone to insert someone because I do think at some point we will see Owen Casey, and it's likely whenever this team is when they officially wave the white flag. But whatever, that's another side point. But like you have the idea of someone like Killian. Brandon Birdsell is down there too, who has had a great minor league season that they like. There are some guys. I have no faith that those guys are going to come up and magically help this team somehow get in the postseason. But at least on the developmental side, you'll get a look at some people, and that's better than not being able to do that at all, given the circumstances. So it's tough. It sucks. And I, in general, feel like I did last year when it came to the forearm issue for Steele, which I think part of me was worried, but also like whenever you kind of heard some of the news come out and it not being as serious as we all kind of thought at first, that's how I, in general, feel about this too. So,
well, we hope it's the same. Nick in the live YouTube chat says, no, if the team is out of it, it's over, man. Listen, preaching to the choir. I think, was it July? Was it July that I said it was? I don't remember where we were in the season, but it was at least a month and a half ago that I declared the season.
No, you said it at almost home in mid-June.
Right?
After the Cardinals loss on Friday.
You said it on set, too, and laughed at me whenever I didn't say it was over.
You said to me directly.
It's been like mid-season. I definitely said it at almost home. I said, that's the loss. It's over.
You said, I'm not confident. I don't think this team makes the playoffs this year. You said that was like mid-June. Right. June 20th, I want to say.
So we're on board that the season's over. And I will again say that while the team is not mailing it in, the players are going to try and give everything they have every single game. The franchise is already sort of showing you through their actions that they know it's almost impossible. They ran Smiley through waivers, right? Like you don't take a lefty reliever that's done pretty good job in the bullpen recently and just roll them through waivers.
The only reason I said what I said is because they clearly are still trying to make the playoffs, or Owen Casey would have been called up because they asked them about it on the score today. We can talk.
I'm just saying, if this is a totally different situation, this is your ace and this is his health moving forward, I would shut him down. what I wouldn't shut down is something as great as Prize Picks.
Prize Picks. I've won my last 2 entries on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community. Today, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 instantly. All right. In the month of September, they have a great deal, especially if you're a Bears fan, which if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, you're a Cubs fan, perhaps you're also a Bears fan, in which in that case, you've dealt with a lot of pain the last 5 years. Well, you know what? Prize Picks is at least helping you make your wallet bigger, all right? Because for the entire month of September, every Bears game or every NFL Sunday, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard will get you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard, 1 passing yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. It's just like a promo. You put it in with your entry with the rest of the other things. If you're taking DeAndre Swift rushing yards and DJ Moore to score a touchdown, something
More
like
or less,
that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yes, get in on the action, man, because that is a great deal, all right? Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CHGO and get $50 instantly when you play $5. It's an incredible deal, all right? With code CHGO on Prize Picks, it'll get you $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
Love it. Important with the season coming up here. What are we, like less than 48 hours away from the start of the season?
Yeah, I already placed a wager on the Ravens.
Ravens, Chiefs, 2 nights away.
Wagers, and then you can play daily fantasy with Prize Picks. So you got a couple of ways to have fun watching that game.
Speaking of Justin Steele, he told me on TikTok one time that Derrick Henry
That's right.
touchdowns for the season, 10.5, over 10.5.
And guess who drafted Derrick Henry in fantasy football? That would be me. I'm excited
Nobody
for that.
cares about your fantasy team.
You don't do fantasy football?
I care about Prize Pick. Yeah, I do. Nobody cares about my team either. Hey, guys, some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, the natural choice all season long. Summertime Shy. Listen, Labor Day is gone. Summertime Shy is still here. Today's weather was as good as it gets, and it was screaming to me all day, give me a Blue Moon and a slice of orange. Nothing beats watching baseball or football or lounging by the pool like an ice-cold Blue Moon. Blue Moon was brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia, get you excited all season long. A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all summer, all fall long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale, one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter, celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
So to kind of finish off my last thought before I do those ads,
Yeah.
like I mentioned Jed Hoyer on the score today, like he was asked about Owen Casey, and he said that Owen Casey, like they want to get him up here, but right now they just can't find the at-bats for him. And to me, that's just them saying that they're trying to still make the playoffs because they don't trust that someone like him will come up and immediately produce. And in some ways, that's fair because he's a rookie and he doesn't have any major league experience. If they were full in on development the rest of the year, they would have already called him up because the roster's expanded 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. Instead, you called up Miles Mastrobuoni. And as a Mastrobuoni guy, whatever. I'm just stating the facts here. The team is still trying to win. They're trying to get in the playoffs. They got to 3 games back going into yesterday. All right, I get it. You're right there. You're now 3 games above 500. You were 5 games above 500. Like I understand there's still a general hope, but at some point they have to just wave the flag because I think fans are just so fed up, and they want to see what's in store for next year. I feel like more fans care more about that now than trying to make the playoffs. I would love to make the playoffs. I would love to see some magic happen, but 3% chance.
How many games are left in the Iowa Cubs season? I don't know. It's less than the Cubs.
That's a good question.
So my point is this. You're talking about trying to win games and versus development. If you're talking about Owen Casey, what's more valuable to his development? A few at-bats at the big leagues or another couple weeks at Iowa?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to make – his development as a player isn't going to be stunted by just playing occasionally in a pinch hit role at the major league level. It's just, I personally don't believe that. They're done the 22nd?
Yes.
Okay, so
September 22nd.
So you have a week.
Yeah.
A week.
Like,
yeah.
You're telling me an extra week of games or 2 weeks of games at AAA is going to catapult him into the next season? I believe it's what Cody's saying. Like, there are signs that they are saying, yes, we know the season's over, but they're also trying to give signs that we're not. We're just leaving him there. I just don't think if I personally would just call those guys up.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to get just as much value out of the few times they'll get at bats here now as you will at 2 more weeks at Iowa.
And it's even
3
more.
weeks at Iowa.
It's an even bigger detriment on the front office on how the roster is constructed because a lot of fans were worried. Like, you know, as much as I was all about bringing Bellinger back this past offseason, like all of us were because he was your best hitter on your team last year, you also have a lot of outfield prospects in Iowa. And it was like, okay, well, if you're not going to use your prospect capital to trade for, a closer or a big bat, one of those two things, if you weren't going to use your prospect capital to get anything like that, then that's telling the rest of us or signaling the rest of us that maybe you were going to be aggressive with your prospect capital with your team this year. And they basically haven't. It's been PCA, it's been Michael Busch, it's been Porter Hodge, Luke Little before he got hurt. That's about it. And to me, that's like, it's disappointing because as much as, I would have loved for them to make a big trade that would have put this team over the top offensively, or, get a bona fide closer. That way you don't blow 25 games or whatever it is. And maybe your team overall is in a better spot. We didn't get anything. We haven't got anything. We're going into next year. If nothing drastic happens this offseason, we're going into next year with the same questions. When the season is over, we will sit here and we will count down to the winter meetings, and then we will go to Dallas and watch nothing happen, Luke. And then they'll make a trade or sign some random dudes the week before
Juan
Cubs
Soto
con.
is not random.
They're not going to sign Juan Soto,
sorry.
Luke. Like, it's just... everything is setting up to just basically, in some ways, run it back, or they're going to, they're praying that Bellinger probably opts out so they can then give Alcantara or Casey the opportunity, depending on whoever they see is the better player. They have to make some trades this offseason with their prospect capital for it all to make sense to me. That's the only thing. And then you have to be right about it too,
I do see, obviously, there's a lot of Godfather being number one in the podcast all the time saying Hoyer, Ricketts is cheap. Hoyer deserves to be fired. That's generally the theme of a lot of the comments in the live YouTube chat. And if you read Ken Rosenthal's thing in The Athletic, he doesn't have great news for you. He's talking about how a lot of big market teams like the Cubs, he doesn't specifically call out the Cubs on this. He's just saying teams like Toronto, he gave the biggest example. These are teams that thought they would contend, have one of their biggest payrolls in franchise history still, and they're in last place. But don't expect changes to the front office.
Yeah.
Because these teams are still making money. And why rock the boat if you're still able to make money and do it the way it is?
The only thing about that article that made me smile was the fact that he said the same exact thing about the Cardinals. Because
they're going to be calling for it, but even though their attendance is down, they're still making dough.
And John Mozeliak has openly said that he plans to hand his job over to whoever is next in line and within the organization at the end of the 2025 season. but there's really no mention of the Cubs in it at all. And to me, I don't know why. I don't know why the Cubs aren't really mentioned in that article, and whether it's because of sources or maybe because the Cubs had a 8-1 stretch or whatever, so maybe that's why he's not mentioning the Cubs in there. But the Cubs should be right there in the middle with all those teams that he lists in that article. I've said this way too many times at this point. There are a handful of really good things Jed Hoyer has done for this organization. There's also the result side too. And this team just isn't getting it done under him, man. And I have all offseason to yell and scream about Jed Hoyer and his job status. And I hate being the guy calling for someone's job. I hate being that guy. But it's a results-based industry.
Well, it's going to fall on deaf ears too. I hate to tell you
the
that.
hitting coach,
coach
is always in trouble.
And me and Luke,
this franchise, it's generally a hitting coach.
Me and Luke know, sitting here right now, we know Jed's not getting fired.
Yeah, he's not.
Here's what I would say about that. Jed's not getting fired. I will admit I didn't think David Ross was getting fired. Now that hasn't proven to make any difference on this team either.
Right.
Whether want to accept it or not, just look at the records, and it's not really any different.
I think David Ross's situation is a very unique one because no one, everyone for some reason thought Counsell was going to go to the Mets. He did the interview, whatever, and then just out of nowhere, he's with the Cubs.
Well, what if some great executive becomes available?
Right. It's something like that has
jump
to
on
happen.
that. I don't see it coming. I'll be stunned if Jed Hoyer's not in charge of the team next year, but
yeah.
The thing
I will be shocked
I can't
too.
say 100% because I didn't see the Counsell thing coming at all.
The thing that just surprises me the most is we've heard in so many interviews with Jed and with Carter Hawkins that Jed is typically the guy who wants to push these moves of bringing prospects up and things like that, but it hasn't been that way. That's the biggest question going into the offseason is why is Jed so conservative with bringing guys up like Pete Crow-Armstrong? If you thought he was conservative with Pete Crow-Armstrong, just wait for Matt Shaw. And Owen, that guy looks like he's ready to play in the big leagues too. And will we even see him next year? Who knows?
It goes back to what I was saying about Owen Casey. There's just not there's the way the roster is constructed. They have to make some bold, drastic moves that is going to create a couple eyebrow raises this offseason.
And bold hasn't necessarily been their calling card.
Exactly.
It just
way too
it
conservative,
just
just like what Kevin said.
I would argue that one of the last bold things they did was go get Theo. Obviously, that turned out really well. But I mean, didn't see it coming. Yes. Is Counsell bold? I don't know if that was a bold move. I guess paying a manager that much money and firing your buddy is kind of bold, but I don't know. Ryan's going to be ready here in a second. We do want to tell you about a couple more sponsors real quick, and we'll get to Ryan Herrera and find out what was said after the game today at Wrigley Field.
I did all this yelling, and I'm still going to advocate for you all to go to Wrigley Field. Sorry, Godfather. But when you do go to Wrigley Field, use Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I went to the game last night where I watched them blow the lead, and I used Game Time to go. I just waited until like 2 hours before the game.
Perfect.
And
it's the way you do it.
The price started dropping because A, it was a Monday. B, as much as the Cubs have been playing well, just there still is not as much interest as the golden era and stuff. So Game Time just makes it super easy, and they always show you the area of where you're sitting and stuff. It's just the best. Let me tell you, the curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and a heck of a lot more. Toggling the all-in pricing feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The seat views, like I was saying, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, as the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. The Game Time ticket coverage also for your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. All right, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Game time. Ho! Let me tell you about Rugged Road, dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Here's one of the keys: floatability. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You're never going to lose a drink. That sounds fairly critical to me. Unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road is incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. They're durable and dependable, too. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last, ensuring they can keep up with any adventure. Coolers guaranteed to keep the contents cool for up to 7 days, but oftentimes much longer than that. And versatility, variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code CHGO for 10% off. Against ruggedroadoutdoors.com with the code CHGO for 10% off. How's it going with Ryan? We're going to be able to get Ryan in?
He's right there. We got Ryan. We're going to go live to him now. Now he is on the screen.
Ryan Herrera.
Kevin was so stressed.
There's something with Studio B and the new eCam trying to get Ryan in here and a guest. It's definitely user error. I'm definitely just
It's all right.
at fault.
Ryan's here. He's in his beautiful backgrounded area in the Cubs press box. And Ryan, what did Craig Counsell have to say after this game? We already played the Justin Steele sound, which was good news. What did Counsell say about stuff after the game?
I think his kind of main point, and he kind of started out saying, like, obviously the first 3 innings, he said they played as good on offense as you can play without scoring runs, right? Because in a way they did. They loaded the bases. The first and second inning, load the bases, get 2 guys on in the third. Like, yeah, you can't really if you're not going to score runs, like that's about as good as it could get. But obviously, you need to score runs to win baseball games, and that was kind of his main point. Is just they hit, or they made Skenes work, and were able to draw some walks in those innings, but it was also, Skenes wasn't giving them anything to hit. It's hard to get hits off him anyway, but he wasn't giving them anything to hit. So, yeah, they were taking walks, they were loading the bases, but weren't able to get that big hit. They weren't able to get that next hit. And I feel like it feels like May or June Cubs right now. We're just talking about not being able to get the big hit, which is disappointing, obviously, coming off what was their best stretch of the year. It was a 6-game win streak. They went 8-1 on the road trip, won 12 of 15 games. Like, there was a lot of goodwill built up there, and they managed to knock off some or gain a little bit of ground in the wild card race. Not a ton, because the Braves kept winning too, but a little bit of ground, and you felt good about where they were at heading into September. And now you see, the last 2 games, and we talked about it even last week when they were in Pittsburgh, right? Like, Jerry Jones is a good pitcher, and losing to him is. Or him beating you is like no small feat, and obviously Paul Skenes looks like he's gonna be one of the best pitchers in baseball for a long time, right? Like, it's hard to beat those 2 pitchers, and even though they were able to do it last week, it's hard to beat them, and so it's obviously a disappointing outcome for the Cubs. Just the offense, especially tonight, the lack of offense especially after those first 3 innings. I think they had 1 base runner from the 4th inning on. You're in the thick of this race, right? Like, you're trying to claw back into this wild card race. Again, I get it. It's hard to get hits off Paul Skenes, but at this point in the year, it's really no excuses. You got to figure out a way to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna be sitting on the outside looking in 23 games from now.
Yeah. Do you think, in your opinion, from what you heard Justin Steele say, we heard the one soundbite where he's talking about there's no there's no tear in his elbow. It's similar to what he felt last year. Do you think he will pitch again this season? We know he wants to, but do you think he will?
I think so. Craig Counsell also talked pregame about it, and he even said said that they're not the plan as of today isn't to put him on the IL. It could still happen. They'll have to kind of see how he feels tomorrow. I think Steele wants to try to play catch tomorrow, so maybe that gives them a little bit more of an idea of how he feels. I think a decision on that will be coming, whether it's IL or give him some rest. I think it just depends on how long once they get a better understanding of how long Justin might be out for him, how long it might take him to be able to pitch again. But Counsell kind of said that even if the injured list is involved here, obviously the 15-day minimum stint, that it wouldn't rule him out for the season. Steele, obviously, like you said, he does think he'll pitch again this year. So I mean, my gut is that, especially if they can figure out a way to stay in the race, even if he does go on the IL, especially if they can figure out a way to stay in the race, he pitches again. He said it's kind of similar. It felt kind of similar as far as where he felt it and what he was feeling as the injury that put him on the IL in June of last season. And, that ended up being a 15-day, it was a minimum stint on the IL for him. I think if he has to go on the IL, it could be something similar to that as far as time missed this late in the season, where the Cubs are at. And I think that where they are, if he does have to go on the IL, where they are in the standings, how close they may be, I think that may play into if Justin pitches again this season. Like I said, I think I'd lean towards he does, but things can change, and we won't have any probably more answers for the next day or two.
You're a man of fashion, obviously. A lot of CHGO gear.
Of course.
And I know as a valued reporter in the press box, you can't just go up to Shota Imanaga and just hand him a bunch of CHGO gear and say, wear it for us, please. But did you see this sweet setup that he had today? This he knows how to play Chicago. Mm-hmm. He knew it at his press conference. He's known it during the season. And today he shows up to the ballpark in a Walter Payton jersey with Jordans on. Embrace yourself to this city at the right time. The only jersey he could have had on that would have been just as good would have been Caleb Williams. But I'm glad he went with Walter Payton. He went with the tradition. So my question is, how are we going to get him the CHGO gear? How are we going to do it? Who are we going to hand the gear to, then hand it? All we need is a middleman.
I know.
All we need is one middleman.
All I can say is
maybe we just drop it we just put it in that little street where they walk across to where their cars are parked. Maybe we just kind of litter the street with it a little bit. And he's like, look at that shirt.
We should just hit up Sam, who took this picture. And
Sam might be
we should just give it to her and be like, hey, can you just give it to Shota?
Yeah, why don't you, here's 4 shirts for you. Now, hand these to Shota and don't say they were from us.
Yeah. He's we should do
he's a vibe.
Whenever
pitches tomorrow.
Whenever we're in the month of October and the Cubs aren't playing playoff baseball because we're a poverty organization, we should do a ranking of Shota's best fits arriving to Wrigley in the 2024 season. We should do a top 10 ranking, and I would just have to go through all of the pictures that Sam has taken. She takes pictures of him every single day at Wrigley. I mean, that was probably one of my favorites they showed up into today.
Ryan, we got 3 minutes left. Any other nuggets we should know about from Wrigley Field, obviously with Shota pitching tomorrow?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about Steele, obviously, and potentially he misses more than just this start. We don't know that. Like I said, probably won't know that for a little bit here. But I don't know. I was going to ask, were you guys encouraged by what you saw out of Kyle Hendricks today as far as, he's probably going to have to step into the rotation depending on how much time Steele misses. He gave you 5 innings, 2 runs. Encouraged?
I keep saying it wasn't his fault. He gave you 4 or 5 innings. That's what he does. He gives you – you just have to know when to take him out. How could anybody complain about what – I know people were ready to pounce on Hendricks because that was going to be another opportunity. He's washed. The haters are going to – but even those guys, even the haters can't complain about this game.
No.
5 innings, 2 runs. They had 5 hits. That's why they lost.
Yeah.
And I said, Ryan, but for the record, I said, I would protect my ace. I would just shut Steele down. They have a 3% chance. He doesn't need to pitch, and you just tell him that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love them to, maybe call up Killian. He's on the 40-man. I know they won't, but that's something that I would love to see, considering he's been a guy in your organization for the last couple of years, and the only reason that, I feel like we haven't seen him is because of the injury that, he missed the first 3 months of the year. I know it's September, but, I mean, we're at a 3% chance, Ryan. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, someone like that, or, Brandon Birdsell is also a guy who's had a lot of success in Iowa this year, and I think that one's more of a wishful thinking. But I think Killian makes a lot of sense. But I also don't know how the Cubs view him going forward. And, they tried to use him as starter. He had command problems, So I get it, but this isn't anything against Hendricks. It's just more about like we are where we're at, and I would just like to find out some answers about some dudes.
I think the problem with that mindset is that the Cubs, well, at least the Craig Counsell and the team, they don't share that. Like they still want to win games, they still want to try to make the playoffs. So I think in Craig Counsell's mind, like even if they were to bring up Caleb Killian, Kyle Hendricks probably, or I would think that he thinks Kyle Hendricks probably gives him a better chance to win a baseball game if he's out there.
You're right about that,
and he probably is right about that. I'm just saying that at this point, and I get it. And we were just talking about before you came in here, like the way they acted with, the roster expanding, calling up Master Boney instead of Owen Casey. It's very clear that like they're still trying to make the playoffs, and I get it. You got the 3 games back going into this homestand, and now you're at 4.5, and it's just the same thing, different day when it comes to the situation about the postseason, and we'll see if when that changes. I would love to be proven wrong. I think for the sake of views, I would love to be wrong and see this team just win out the rest of the year. Or
the record, he did try to have another magic ice cream cone tonight, and this one didn't work. He changed it up. He went cookie dough, and
they didn't have the kind.
They had 5 hits.
Yeah. So
all right,
it is what it is, man.
It's because you didn't bring out the Rally Rice Krispies, Luke.
Oh yeah, well
we're out.
Somebody else has to buy them. I can't afford that. Ryan, you're back at the ballpark again tomorrow, right? All right, Ryan's there. Check out his stuff at allchgo.com. We'll be back for a post-game show. Full hour again tomorrow. Therapy or celebration, whichever you prefer. And until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.